Now, millennial burnout is on the rise amongst students, with things like social media pressures and exam stress being some of the main reasons behind young people feeling depressed and anxious. And it's particularly difficult for some at this time of year as university life kicks in.
Dr. Dominique Thompson is here. She's an expert on student mental health and has written a book on it, How to Grow a Grown-Up. Good to see. How do you grow a grown-up?
Thank you. Well, perhaps two of the biggest things that we need to do are make sure that young people can be independent when they leave home and that they don't need mum and dad and family to still do things for them. And the other big thing is that they hopefully can deal with things when they go wrong, because young people feel failure and things going wrong very, very sensitively, perhaps more than in the past. And so we need to give them the skills really to deal with that.
Very interesting with students, because I guess, especially when you're starting university, because there is so much pressure to meet new people, to be liked by people. Many students are going to be away from home for the first time. That's a lot for them to cope with.
Yes. I mean, that time of transition is one of great change, great pressure. And one of the reasons that my colleague and I wrote the book was that we have spent our whole professional lives looking after other people's children, people coming to university and struggling a little bit with that transition. And we became aware of this increasing demand for support. All of us who work with young people have seen this, whether it's GPs, tutors, teachers, and of course parents. And so we wanted to give the parents some skills and things that they could do to prepare their young people for that transition out of home, to survive but also thrive when they leave home.
What do you say to those who are critical and say that, you know, it's all part of this snowflake generation and they simply don't have the resilience and they need to just toughen up and deal with life?
I would say they're probably speaking from the point of view of someone who hasn't experienced what it's like to be young now. Young people aren't missing something. It's not like they've grown up and haven't got resilience, but we need to help them with the skills to deal with life as it is now. And it is very different now. For example, academic pressure is huge. If 1 in 2 young people go to university now, which they do, which is fantastic in terms of education, that means 1 in 2 people in the workplace has a degree. So now every other person has that degree. How do you stand out? People feel that pressure to be different, to be, as they say, perfect all the time. They feel they have to be their best self. And they say things like failure is not an option. They feel this huge pressure, but they feel it from a really young age. I spend a lot of time talking to 14, 16, 18 and older as part of my research, my books and my work. And they all say the same thing. Academic pressure is the #1 stressor for young people.
It is a different environment, though, you're saying,
Yes.
because we have social media,
Yes.
we have young people aspiring to be like the role models that they see on Instagram or wherever. But generations before also faced pressure, but they were able to cope.
I would say that the pressures now are different. They feel that they get less downtime, less time off. Perhaps things like social media haven't helped in that they magnify this need to be perfect, this competing with others, this feeling that you do have to be your best self the whole time. And something that parents can do is give them permission to be imperfect sometimes, to be more relaxed, to try things and get it wrong, give things a go. The problem with the rising perfectionism, for example, that we've seen, that's a statistic will change over the last 30 years, more young people are more perfectionist. Well, that means they don't give themselves a break. They never let themselves off the hook. They're never happy with what they achieve. And I think there's a lot that parents can do to try and allow them to try stuff and get it wrong. It doesn't matter, give it a go. That's the sort of thing that is perhaps the pressure they talk about.
Would you say young people are happy to communicate about their problems and things that are really a real concern for them, perhaps more than their parents were when they were their age?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely more talking about well-being, more talking about mental health, which I think is a good thing. But it's important. We're not saying that all these young people have a mental health problem, like a diagnosis. We're just saying they're feeling the stress more. It's a different world. There is technology that's different. There's this competitiveness. There are other things. Relationships have changed a bit. Maybe they need to build their skills to talk to each other more, not just on their screens. There are lots of skills, lots of things that we can help them with. And it's that very different 21st century that we as parents are trying to raise our children in, and that me as a GP spent a very long time looking after other people's children in.
And I suppose the essence of the book is it's okay not to be perfect.
Absolutely, that is definitely one of the big messages. The other big message, I think, is let them do it, help them to do it, but don't do it for them. There's loads and loads of stuff now that parents are getting involved in that perhaps they didn't get involved in before. All comes from a really well-meaning point of view. I get that. But, you know, if they need to book a GP appointment, let them book that appointment. If they need to get somewhere, let them work out their way of how to get there. You know, if they've got problems at university, for example, don't email the tutor and sort it out for them. Let them do it, but help them to do it.
Yeah, my idea of parenting, actually. Dr. Dominique Thompson, thank you very much for coming to speak to us.
Thank you so much.